Welcome to the PTA Real Estate Podcast. I'm your host, John Caligiuri, accompanied by my co-host, Nick Killing. Nick, how you doing this evening?
Doing great.
We have it. This is the emergency podcast. There seems to be a touch of drama in the realtor industry. So I'm just going to, as a banker, thank God I'm not in any hot water as we usually are. I'm going to let Nick take it away and let us know what's going on. Give us a little breakdown.
There's no really hot water. I'm actually pretty excited from the realtor perspective because what I do, I always communicate with my buyers and I always have the representation agreement out and I talk about how commissions work. So a lot of people just assume that the seller is going to pay them, but that's not the case all the time. Sometimes the sellers don't pay the 3%. Sometimes they only pay 1 or 2, and it will come out of the buyer's pocket. So I already have that conversation with my clients. A lot of realtors do not. Those are the shitty realtors because they probably don't talk about a lot of things. Yeah, so those people might lose their jobs and suffer, but people who are doing real estate right are actually super happy because a lot of those bad realtors are probably going to get out of the business, and it's more business for us. It's better customer service for the people who are wanting to buy real estate, and it's a better name for realtors now because a lot of these bad realtors are getting out. So to really understand this settlement that has happened, you kind of need to understand pre and post. So I'm going to walk through that process, and then I'm going to talk about different perspectives. I kind of already touched on the realtor's perspective, which I'm glad about. I'm glad this happened because it's going to eliminate all those bad realtors. But for the buyer's perspective, it might be a little bad. The seller's perspective, nothing has changed. So post settlement, if I go and talk to someone that is wanting to buy a house, I look at the house, tour the house, and we talk about pricing, strategy, and all that stuff. And then one part of the process is talking about commissions. The seller has always had the opportunity to not pay the buyer agent. That has always been a thing. I've heard nonstop people talking about, oh, now the seller is not going to be forced to pay the buyer agent. That has never been a thing. Since the beginning of time, this is America. The seller could have not paid the buyer agent this whole time. A lot of people don't realize that. John, you're muted.
Am I muted or can you hear me?
Oh, there we go. Yeah, a lot of people did not know that. So what is changing is when I have that representation agreement signed on the seller side, when I post the house on the MLS, I type in the bedrooms, bathrooms, the measurements, the square feet, the pricing, and there's this one little square that I put 3% for buyer's agent, and I advertise that. So then agents will see that and be like, oh, let's go see the house. You know, they're going to cover my client's full commission. And sometimes if I put 2%, 1%, the listing, if the clients want to see the house and the buying agent shows the house, the buying agent will be like, hey, by the way, just letting you know, the seller is only paying 2% or 1%. That means you will have to come out of pocket and pay for that. And what a lot of people do is if I'm a buyer and I want proper representation and I have two options, and one of my options, the seller is paying for my representation, and the other one I have to pay half, and at the same house I like them equal, I'm going to go with the one that's cheaper. like anyone's going to do.
True.
So the whole idea of like real estate agents don't show houses because it's less commission, it's all bullshit. This whole settlement is just to grab money. It's just people who overpaid for their house and then can't sell it, have some vendetta against real estate agents, and just want to grab money.
So Nick, my only real question is, what is the drama? What is the settlement? Can you break down what the settlement is and why?
Yeah, so people thought, so the whole thing is price fixing. It was against, the whole thing was about price fixing because, which I can agree with that, sure. Because on the MLS, you advertise that 3%. When I have a listing, I'm advertising, hey, just letting everyone know this seller is willing to pay the 3% commission. Mm-hmm. And a lot of people was like, that's not okay, because if I just want to pay 2%, I want them to at least see my house, or I want that not to be shown. I want that part hidden. So it's people that want that hidden that are saying, "Hey, this is illegal. You can't advertise that." So instead of having that located on MLS, now all it is agents are going to call each other. Like I'm going to call and be like, "Hey, my client is interested in viewing this property. I see it's listed for this amount, this amount. Do you have any offers in?" "Oh no, we don't have any offers in." "Okay, sweet. Just wanted to make sure. Is the seller willing to pay my buyer's representation? Are you offering 3%?" And they will say no, 2%, 1%. I'm gonna write down on my notes and I'm gonna talk to my client. It's the same exact thing, just that information is being translated differently.
So
It's
how much
just not.
for?
What's up?
How much do they settle for?
Like 52 million or something like that.
So for,
It's just money. It is just money. They're
so,
just trying to grab money.
so just correct me if I'm wrong. A bunch of people own their homes sued who? The Realtors Association, because they were price fixing or because they were charging
Yes.
too much in commissions.
No, there's just the National Association of Realtors got sued. There's a lawsuit quite a while ago, which set some precedent for all these people to start suing them. And now they're going to settle with a big 52 million, I think it is, to settle all this, and they're going to take off that 3%, which the Department of Justice been wanting this whole time, was that to be rid of because they thought it was price fixing.
Okay, so now what is going to? So now will the realtor negotiate with the seller of how much they want to get commission, or what is it going to be moving forward?
So the only thing that's going to change is instead of having it advertised as, "Hey, the seller is going to pay the buyer's representation of 3%," now it's going to be a phone call having during the showings, or it's going to be, "Hey, I'm going to send this contract over, and if I want to be competitive, is your seller offering 3% for my buyer's representation?" That's, I mean, nothing is changing. All that's changing is when you go on the MLS, that little box that says 3% won't be there anymore.
Okay, so for all the people drama in the realtor industry, there's no drama. It's just you no longer advertise 3%, and
Yeah,
who overpay for their homes are getting a percentage of that back out of the. I wonder how many people sued to get their 52 mil.
a lot. I don't know all the plaintiffs or anything like that. I haven't really read in it. It's all greedy people. It's people who overbought for properties and then have some vendetta against real estate agents and thinks it's some kind of corrupt system. And honestly, this is my opinion about it. I've heard quite a lot of people. This is just an agenda to create America into a renter society. Because at the end of the day, so if you're a buyer post and pre, the worst thing that can happen to you as a buyer is that the seller will one of the one thing that can happen is that the buyer um is barely making the down payment he needs. He's qualifying for some government assistance, FHA. He's putting like 3% down, right? He's barely have enough money for the loan origination fees. I've helped a lot of people and they're like paying uh, all those fees, and they have like $1,000 in their bank account afterwards.
Yeah,
like it's tough for a lot of people. It's tough for
hey,
myself, you. Like it's
out there,
tough for
yeah.
everyone. So all this is doing is making the buyer harder to buy a house. So when they send an offer in, and they send an offer, "Hey, market value, all these things. Hey, you're gonna pay for representation, 3% on the seller side," and then the seller is going to be now. I mean, this is probably going to only happen for this first year because people are talking about it. But the seller's like, "Oh no, I'm only offering 2%." It's like, okay, my buyer does not have that money. We cannot do that, and he needs proper representation. We can't do that. Can we get to some kind of agreement here? And either the seller's going to think he's high and mighty and say no, and probably not sell his house, and we're going to have to look at other houses, and it's just going to prolong that. Or hey, they're going to have to find someone that has the money to say, "Hey, yeah, I can pay for 20% down. I can pay for all the fees. I can pay for the 3%. And these are people who already have a lot of wealth, and it's going to hurt the people of the lower class, lower middle class, people who are barely getting by, and it's going to benefit these big companies like BlackRock and stuff like that.
Okay, just because I know you got to go to class, I'm going to summarize, and then you say yay or nay. So basically, in summary, a bunch of people got together and sued the National Realtors Association for
That's the Association of Realtors.
National Association of Realtors for $52 million because they overpaid for their homes. And Joe Biden and his administration, time and time again, just want to make it harder and harder for the middle
Yeah,
class.
this has been going on for a while, so it's not just him, even though he didn't make it better. But
Hashtag Obama. So basically, it's just harder for the middle class. It's hard for the low class to become middle class, hard for the middle class to stay middle class, and a bunch of good people got $52 million.
Exactly, and nothing changes other than a little square on the MLS.
Awesome. I'm glad the more drama there is, the more it stays the same.
And the DOJ is celebrating this huge win that they just made the process of buying a house for poor people even worse.
Well, that's usually how they do it.
Yeah, you can't trust the government, and if you think some court case is going to benefit you, you're not. And if you're selling your house and you think that you're going to get away with only selling your house with 2% to the buying agent, you're not. The market has said itself. It's been 3%. That's what the market has deemed, just because of some judge saying that, and the government saying that you can't have that little square on your website. Isn't going to change that. That's still the market standard. Now, this could change, have a wave and change the market. Maybe. I doubt it. Big doubts.
Big doubts on the market changing. Well, Nick, I'll let you go to class. Do you have anything else you want to say?
Nope. Just if you heard some, I know a lot of people are saying how this is going to decrease home value. They're full of shit.
Okay.
This is not going to decrease home value. If anything, it's just making the home buyer worse.
That's usually
and benefiting the seller. Maybe.
Well, thank you so much for listening. God bless. Have a good rest of your day.